Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Little Fellas podcast, a brand new episode. And I have Krishna with me, and we're going to look ahead of the India Australia One Day series, which is going to happen in a few days' time. And before we go into the video, please like, share, and subscribe the content. Uh, Please click the bell icon too, so that you will get notified when our video comes. And the Twitter and Insta links are in the description. You can go follow and interact with us. We'll respond to every comment possible, basically. So please do that. So hi Krishna. First of all,
Uh,
how good to see Team India back after a long time.
yeah. Hello, Shreyas. Thank you for having me on the podcast today. Yeah. So as you said, India are finally back playing international cricket after a long ordeal. I think the last bit of international cricket action that we saw as Indian fans was in New Zealand, and it wasn't a happy series. We demolished them in the T20s, but we lost the ODI and the Test leg of the tour, and it wasn't great because the ODI series and the Test series had some young guns playing for India abroad, and I was really disappointed the way in which we played in the Test series and in the One Day series because we were not able to negotiate the pace, swing, and bounce of the New Zealand bowlers. So, given that many of our youngsters played in that series, it was a big worry. But of course, it's their first series abroad. Pretty sure they'll come around. And this particular squad also has a lot of exciting talent. Very unfortunate that we do not have Rohit Sharma in the ODI lineup, but we do have Shubman Gill. A lot of barging has been happening for Shubman Gill to be part of at least the ODI squad from people outside. But now that Shubman Gill is part of the squad and with Rohit Sharma not being present, I think Shubman Gill will definitely get a good chance this series. Same goes for Mayank Agarwal as well. So yeah, I'm really excited to see this new phase of Indian cricket and how well the newcomers get into their roles.
Yeah, I agree on most of the points, Krishna. And one other thing that I need to stress on here is that the series is actually happening in Australia, right? There was actually some rumors during the IPL that the series would continue in UAE post the IPL, and BCCI and even Cricket Australia, they've done a good job to make it happen actually, and hope the series does happen without any COVID issues or any issues of any kind actually. So let's get into the India form. I wanted to talk about the 2019 World Cup. So actually, what I think is we should plan from World Cup to World Cup, like how England do, right? I mean, many teams do that. Even Australia, to an extent, if you actually see, they perform from World Cup to World Cup. So, what went wrong in the 2019 World Cup? Uh, Primarily, what I think is it's not just a one game choke. It is a failure to plan properly for like 4 long years. What do you think?
Yes, Shreyas, I agree on the fact that it was a one-game choke because if you look at our top three, it has been probably the best top three the world has ever seen, right from 2015 to 2019. And I think those kind of one-off days are very normal in cricket. It's happened to the best of players. And just because Kohli, Rohit Sharma, and Shikhar Dhawan failed to perform, sorry, not Shikhar Dhawan, KL Rahul failed to perform in that one game, you cannot, tarnish their pedigree as as the best batsman that the white ball format has ever seen. So in that sense, yes, I think it was a one-game choke. But if you look at the team management, there are definitely a lot of questions as to whether the talented players are getting enough backing from the team management and Kohli as captain. This has been very vocal of late because even though some players have performed very consistently, at least at the IPL level, their white ball chances have been very limited in the last 2 to 3 years. So now we have some decent backups in pace bowling. Navdeep Saini and Shardul Thakur have started getting some chances. It is very essential because Shami and Bumrah are our two main pace bowlers now. Assuming Bhuvneshwar Kumar is yet to find his brilliant form from the 2017-2018 years. So in that case, I think it is now clear that Shami and Bumrah are very important pace bowlers and frontline pacers. So I think there is still a vacancy for the third spot. There are a few competitors for it in the form of Navdeep Saini, Shardul Thakur, and maybe even Mohammad Siraj if he starts becoming consistent with white ball. So in that sense, I think it is better to have two backup pacers. It is something the team management should look at very closely. And in the spin department, we have Yuzvendra Chahal and Kuldeep Yadav. I think they definitely have the years in front of them to serve Indian cricket for longer periods. And given that the next World Cup will be in India, it is really important that Chahal and Kuldeep stay fit and stay threatening as ever. With regards to the spin department, I think I would be interested to seeing at least one more spinner, preferably an off spinner, because that will give us more variety. Jadeja is a supreme athlete, a very good fielder, and a very good all-rounder in spin-conducive conditions. So I'm assuming Jadeja will make the cut to the next World Cup. But apart from that, I think the Indian middle order is still a question. Number 4 is still a question. Is Rishabh Pant getting the enough backing that he deserves? Is another question. MS Dhoni is gone now; his chapter is completed. So no more concerns of whether MS Dhoni is available. Of course, he was not going to play the next World Cup, but now that MS Dhoni has cleared the road for the other wicket keepers, it is high time that India actually start looking at wicket keeper options. And I think Pant is the guy who should be backed because he has that slight amount of experience that you're asking for. You're not going to. I don't think the Indian team management is going to back Sanju Samson in the ODI format at least. They're looking at Sanju Samson as a T20 option. So in the ODI format, if you look at the keepers that we have tried after Dhoni, I think one is Pant and the other one is KL Rahul. I think KL Rahul should be relieved of his keeping duties because that puts undue pressure on his batting, and that also puts questions on his fitness. So in that sense, I think it is essential that Pant is back as long as possible. Yes, if he underperforms, if he's not getting you the runs, then you can probably give him a knock on the head and maybe ask him to do well in domestic cricket and then come back. But he was in decent form before he got dropped. So I'm not sure as to why Pant was not back for the series. Yeah, as you said, Shreyas, I think in ODIs the only relevancy is the World Cup. In that sense, it is really important that we look at World Cup to World Cup.
Yeah, I don't actually completely agree with your point. Like you told that Pant should be back, right? But yeah, even I think so. But I don't think the selectors they are focusing on that. I mean, what I think is the squad for the World Cup it should be locked by mid 2022 at least. I think you'd agree on that, right? So are they like experimenting with Samson now whether to select him or not? Because I don't see Pant getting a place in either say a one day squad and T20 squad also, right? So I don't know why he is dropped. So if they are going to consider him seriously for 2023, I think they should have selected him now. Or I don't think there's any point. Again, it will be a repeat of 2019, right? Chopping and changing of personnel, and ultimately it will lead to failure at some point of time, right? Say our top three will be the same, and it will be strong in 2023 too. But a failure is bound to happen when you do this chopping and changing in middle order. So what I feel is the middle order and possibly every position in the team, including the backup, should be logged mid 2022, and there should be maybe one or two changes, but not more than that, surely.
Yeah, yeah, and just one more point. If you look at the success that England has had, and if you look at the success that Australia had in 2015, it came on the back of a select 15 to 20 core group of players who were consistently backed. Each and every player knew their strength, and they were accommodated one way or the other into the team. England had to drop one of their premier power play bowlers in David Willey, who was also a very
Yeah.
good bat at number 7, number 8 for them, just because Archer was available. So those are the kind of decisions that I think even BCCI should take at times. In case you have a better option, play the better option. And even though you could not accommodate someone who served you that long, at the end of the day, it's purely a question of whether the player who's coming in is going to have more impact than the current player. That's all. That was a simple decision for England to make. Very unfortunate that David Willey got dropped, but in the end they played Archer, who in the end won them the World Cup. So those are the kind of decisions that you have to make.
Yeah, fair point. But do you think you'll find a similar talent like, I mean, not exactly bowling, but such exceptional player like Archer who will come in at the last minute for India? I mean, that was a different case, right? I mean, he had to get his England citizenship sorted and such things. But for me, what I feel is, again, the squad should be locked. At least you should have the probables, right? The 30-man probable should be locked by mid 2022, and post that you need to play the 15-man squad that you have for the World Cup in the coming series between 2022 and 23. So now we'll move on to India squad. So let me pull out the squad for you. So yeah, quite surprising really some of the selections. What do you think of it, Krishna?
I think the only surprising selection for me is I would say in the bowling, because we've gone ahead and picked Shardul Thakur. Shardul Thakur in a sane world might not have been picked for the ODIs at least. But I think the reason why Shardul Thakur is being picked, because there is a chance that Hardik Pandya might not bowl. He did not bowl for the Mumbai Indians throughout the IPL, so I'm assuming India also will be preserving his bowling just so he doesn't get injured again. In that case, there is a question of whether you would play Pandya as a pure bat at 5. I don't think you can play Pandya as a pure bat at 6, because then we'll be going back to square one with just 5 bowlers. So in that sense, I think that is the only selection that surprises me. They're probably looking at Thakur as a bowling all-rounder, which I do not question. Uh, I think the selections of Gill and Mayank are pretty straightforward. We do not have Rohit Sharma, so it was definitely going to open doors for Gill and Mayank because they were next in line. The bowling looks pretty similar to me. Bumrah, Shami, Saini, Chahal, Kuldeep. I think 4 out of the 5 will automatically start depending on our AR combinations. Samson for ODIs is interesting because we already have two potential top 5 players in Shreyas Iyer and Manish Pandey. So in that sense, I'm not sure where Samson is going to fit in. But apart from that, I think it is a very straightforward squad.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, as you told, Thakur and Samson were the only two surprising picks. I mean, it was quite surprising to me to leave out Punt, in fact. So we'll move on to the 11 quickly. So, what would be your best starting 11, and who will be their backups?
Uh,
Each of this.
I,
Yeah.
I think if I have to start from the bowlers, I'll probably play Bumrah, Shami, Chahal, and Saini. I'll probably leave Kuldeep out because I'm assuming Hardik Pandya cannot bowl. So in that sense, I'd be playing Jadeja as my fifth bowler. So he'll probably slot in at 6, 6 or 7, depending on the situation. But in that sense, if I have to start picking the batsman, then I think I'll start with Dhawan. I want Dhawan to be partnered with Mayank because Mayank has been really good form in the IPL. I just think he's striking the ball well. If not for the injuries, he might have been an outside contender for the orange cap as well. So Dhawan Mayank will open the innings for me. I want Kohli to bat at 3. Um, Prior to what happened in the previous ODI series leading up to the coronavirus break, I think it was KL Rahul was batting at 4. Given that we do not have Rohit Sharma, I think it is better if there is some experience in the middle order. So I probably want KL Rahul at 4. So that means I think one of Mayank or Shreyas Iyer will bat at 5. So in that case, I
You
would
mean
pick.
Gill, right? You mean Gill, right?
Uh,
You
uh,
mean because Mayank is opening, right? So you
yeah,
do
sorry,
mean that
sorry,
either
Gill,
Gill or
Gill or
Shreyas.
Shreyas. Sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
my bad. Gill or Shreyas. So in that case, I would probably pay Shreyas Iyer at 5 because I think Gill is a predominantly top 4 player, and Hardik Pandya should slot in at 6 because I think he's definitely suited for the number 6 role compared to Pandey. He can definitely finish innings, and he can be used as a floater as well in case we have good starts from the top five. So in that case, Hardik Pandya slots in at 6, and from there on, I would have Jadeja and the 4 bowlers. So I'd be leaving out Samson, Kuldeep, Thakur, and Manish Pandey. Manish Pandey and Shubman Gill. So these are the players we'll be sitting out for.
Yeah, fair enough. I actually agree with. Surprisingly, I agree to what all you said now. I think it looks fine. But what I feel is like uh, the other guys should be given a chance. I mean, this would ideally be our best 11, but I feel that you're taking Samson, Thakur, and everyone to all the way to Australia after 14-day quarantine, right? I mean, you're bound to give them a chance. Also, I feel that we have the upper hand here since all of them have played IPL and they are in good white ball touch, right? So we can afford to give them a chance. I mean, frankly, if you ask me, this is quite irrelevant series actually. We can afford to lose. That won't matter. But what I feel is now is the time to try, right? So ideally, what you said that would be our best 11 for the first one day. Even that would be my 11. But if we go on to win that, we can maybe give chance to other players like Shubman Gill and Kuldeep Samson. I'm actually quite excited to see Samson on in one day. So let's say during the 40 to 50 over mark, he can, along with Pandya, provide some classy blows at the end, and that's actually very vital. So yeah, fair enough. Now we'll move on to Australia ODI form. So yeah, what do you feel? Actually, Australia is, as I told, it's a World Cup to World Cup team, but they are actually quite good, contrary to popular opinions. They are really good when they play at their full strength, right? If you have all the top bowlers and Warner Smith, everyone playing, that's actually quite a good team, and they dominated in the World Cup. So, what do you feel? How about Australia?
Yeah, I think Australia is one team along with England that has the all-rounder balance. They managed to fit in 2 all-rounders who can bowl 6 to 7 overs on their own within the top 7, and they've got 4 quality bowlers who can bowl their full 40. So in that case, depending on the conditions, they're able to use their all-rounders for extra overs or limit them to how many ever overs they need out of them. So in that case, I think Australia is one of the more flexible teams going around. They have options left, right, and center. In that case, where do they compensate it? Well, I think they compensated right after Steven Smith and Manas Labuschagne. So if they're going to play Warner, Finch, Steven Smith, and Manas Labuschagne as the top 4, which I think will be the top 4 of this series, uh, they end up playing Maxwell, Stoinis, and Carey as 5, 6, 7. I think Carey at 7 is something that's fixed. You cannot do anything about it. He's your best keeper, so you have to play him. But in that sense, if you play Maxwell and Stoinis at 5 and 6, I think the batting takes a slight dip, at least in the ODI format. In T20, I think if they play in Australia and if they play in batting conducive conditions, I think this is a very, very good 5, 6, 7. T20 level, I would say it's a really good 5, 6, 7. But I think this is where the batting is a little compensated. But in the recently concluded England series, this was the batting that won them again. It was Maxwell, Stoinis, and Carey who joined hands and took them to victory in I think it was a slightly bigger chase as well. Stoinis, if I'm not wrong, was promoted in that game. They ended up playing Stoinis up the order. So Maxwell and Carey had to come at the back and score hundreds and take the team home. So in that sense, I think Australia's only weakness is that 5, 6, 7. But they have compensated for that slightly weak batting with some really good bowling in the form of Maxwell and Stoinis. Coming to their bowlers, I think their bowlers have done really well for a good amount of time. This has been the pace attack that has played with them, played for almost 2 years now. I think Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood have been absolute givens in the Australian ODI setup. And Agar is a spinner who's been used by Australia for the past 1 year consistently. I mean, previously also he was part of the squads here and there, but in the last 1 year he's found consistent appearances for Australia in the white ball format. So I think Australia have a pretty settled team. This I think the team that played in the 2019 World Cup might end up being the same. Might end up being the team that plays in the 23 World Cup as well. So maybe with a couple of changes with the Labuschagne coming in. So in that sense, I think yeah, they have all bases sorted, and they have a really good spinner in Adam Zampa as well. So depending on the conditions, they can end up dropping one of the all-rounders and play the bowling all-rounder Agar, and Zampa I think will start as the first choice spinner.
Yeah, sure. We are looking at the squad now. Like they've brought in a new player called Cameron Green. I mean, he's had an ordinary big bash, but he's doing well in the Sheffield Shield, and they've shown faith in him, and they brought him in. And I hope he gets a chance, and we'll be able to see him play in the ODIs. And but I feel that Sean Abbott will start ahead of Hazelwood, at least in this series, because either of the bowlers. I mean, it may be Stark, Cummins, or Hazelwood, but I think Stark needs some international game time. So I think he'll definitely play. But what I think is Abbott may play ahead of Hazelwood, since Cummins also has some brand value associated with him. Uh, I think second to Kohli in Australia, it's Cummins. He's the face of Australian team. It's not even Finch, in fact, their captain. So, as I told, the 11 will be what I think is Finch and Warner to open, with Smith, Labuschagne, and 3 and 4. And of course, 5, 6, 7 is Maxwell, Stoinis, and Carey. I personally send Stoinis ahead of Maxwell because I personally feel that Maxwell is more suited at a finisher role, like a proper number 6, and Carey is there for sanity, so that won't be a problem. And Zampa, Star, Cummins, and Abbott. I'll go with Abbott. So he's been having a good BBL, and even in the Sheffield Shield, he's doing really well. So I think he'll probably even start in one of the tests that is going to happen next month. So yeah, I think they've got a really good team. I mean, the starting 11 is very good, but depends whether they'll rest the players or yeah, that's basically what you need to see. So, but the first 11, I think it's pretty strong, and it can beat any team on this day.
Yeah, a couple of points from the squad and a couple of points from your observations. One, of course, is the presence of Moises Hendricks at the age of 33. So the understanding is he's had a decent Sheffield Shield this season, and he's a seeming all-rounder. So whose place is he competing for? Ideal choice would be Marcus Stoinis because he's the seeming all-rounder. You might want Glenn Maxwell for his part-time offspring. So in that sense, I think Hendricks is also a established number 5. So that could be another reason why Hendricks has been brought in. We've seen that Marcus Stoinis, if he comes in to face spin initially, be it T20s or ODIs, he's had a slight struggle. And
Yep.
leg spin has been a genuine weakness for Marcus Stoinis. So in that case, I think they just want to give some competition to Marcus Stoinis, and they brought in experienced Hendricks into the squad. Cameron Green is another name that interests me because he's also coming off a very good Sheffield Shield season, and he's being tipped as the next best Australian player by Greg Chappell. So I'm really interested to see Cameron Green in action. I really hope Australia end up giving him at least one limited overs game. Could be a ODI or could be a T20. Not a problem, but I think I just want to see Cameron Green play one game. And I think the lineup is pretty much same for me. The batsman, the all-rounders, the keeper, and the bowlers, except for one. I think Hazelwood should definitely play because if you look at Hazelwood's bowling style, it's a bowling style that we as Indians have found it difficult over the years. Um, he's a swing bowler predominantly. He bowls up front. He is tall. His pace is 135 to 140, and he hits the bat hard. So in that case, I think we as Indians have always played the top bowlers really well, likes of Pat Cummins, Mitchell Starc. We've always found a way to negotiate them. But it's these, run-in workhorse type of bowlers where we've actually struggled. Hazelwood has got a really good outswinger, and our top order has a genuine weakness to the outswinger. Dhawan also has a slight weakness to the in-swinger from right arm over. So in that case, I think Hazelwood should definitely start because on pitches like SCG and Canberra, he will get this sticky bounce, And with swing and that sticky bounce, I think Hazelwood would be a definite pick in the side, because at SCG we all know the ball swings. Ball definitely swings at SCG for some amount of time, because if you remember the last ODI series, Jai Richardson was the one who uh, wrecked the Indian top order. I think it was 15 for 3, and he got all the 3 in no time. So I think if someone can break this Indian top order at the top, at the front with the new ball, I think Hazelwood definitely is worth a shot. So I would not play Abbott initially. I'd probably play Hazelwood. Things don't go well, maybe in the last ODI or maybe in the second ODI, I can bring in Abbott for Hazelwood. But yes, as you
Yeah,
said, the shootout is between Abbott and Hazelwood. I would not drop any of Stark or Kings.
yeah. I mean, there's no question about quality of Hazelwood, surely, but yeah, I feel that he's been there for the IPL too. I feel that he'll be given rest and maybe one or two practice games for the white ball. I mean, the red ball format. So yeah, that's fine. So let's get on to the predictions. What do you feel, Krishna? Who will win this series, and what would you feel that will be the score line?
I think this will be an evenly contested series. Uh, India initially, I guess, start with a disadvantage because we do not have our best opener Rohit Sharma, and we need our best opener Rohit Sharma precisely because he likes Australia. He's always scored runs in Australia, and this has been a feature with most Indian batsmen. Most of the top class Indian batsmen have always had a liking to Australia. So in that case, I think we'll miss Rohit Sharma purely from a psychological point of view. But it's a really good opportunity for Mayank and Gill to prove themselves if they get a chance. And of course, the middle order conundrum still exists. I'd be interested to see how the middle order conundrum is addressed in this series. Looking at Australia, they start with the home ground advantage, and they're playing a settled 11. So I think I would say this series would be a 2-1 win in favor of Australia, precisely because we have a slightly questionable batting lineup, and we are entirely dependent on our bowling to do well. In case they roll out Rhodes, then it's going to be really difficult for us to contain Australia to less than 280, 300. And in case they score 320 in one of the two games, I don't think we have the batting prowess to chase 320.
Oh, that was something I did not expect actually. So I'm totally contrasting what you say. I think it will be a 3-0 India win. So I'm pretty confident. That's been Australia's, I mean, nature, right? They'll try out new players, and we'll probably play the same 11 that is the strongest. And we got Kohli and KL also in really good form that we've seen in the practice game that BCCA posted in their story. So I'm going for a 3-0 win. So let's see what happens in the one day series, and we'll get back. So thanks, Krishna. Thank you for
Yeah. Thank you, Shreyas.
giving
Thank
your
you for having me
opinion.
on the show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on
So
the show.
please, yep. So please like, share, comment, and subscribe, guys. So click the bell icon. Please don't forget. So you'll get notified only when you click the bell icon, and follow our Twitter, Insta, and other pages. If you want to listen, you can go listen on Spotify or any other podcast platform, Anchor or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, anything. So yeah, have a great day, guys. Thank you.